Parents, how did the system fail your child? My son Jake has autism and the school promised they'd help him succeed. Instead, they set him up to fail every single day for 3 years. Jake's really smart, but he needs things explained differently. He can't handle loud noises and gets overwhelmed in crowded hallways. The school said they understood. They gave us all these papers about accommodations and support. First red flag was his teacher, Mrs. Peterson. She'd roll her eyes whenever Jake asked questions. She made him sit right next to the pencil sharpener where kids were constantly making noise. When I asked her to move his seat, she said he needed to learn to adapt to the real world. Jake started having meltdowns at home. He'd throw his backpack across the room and scream that he was stupid. This kid, who could explain how rockets work at age 6, was calling himself stupid. I knew something was wrong. I decided to volunteer at the school to see what was really happening. What I found made me sick. During Jake's math test, Mrs. Peterson would hover over him and tap her pen on his desk. She knew loud, repetitive sounds sent him into panic mode. When he'd start rocking back and forth to calm down, she'd tell him to sit still or go to the principal's office. The worst part was lunch. Jake's supposed to eat in the quiet room because the cafeteria is too chaotic for him. Instead, they stuck him at a table right next to the garbage cans where kids were constantly banging trays and scraping plates. When Jake would cover his ears, other kids would laugh and make even more noise on purpose. I brought this up at every meeting. They'd nod and promise to do better. Nothing changed. Jake's grades kept dropping even though he knew the material. He stopped sleeping, started having panic attacks in the morning before school. The breaking point came during the state testing. Jake's accommodations clearly stated he gets extra time and a quiet room. The day of the test, they put him in the gym with 200 other kids, squeaky sneakers on the floor, coughing, chair legs scraping. Jake lasted 15 minutes before he had a complete meltdown. They called me to pick him up. When I got there, Jake was sitting in the hallway hyperventilating. The vice principal told me maybe Jake just isn't cut out for regular school. Maybe I should consider other options. Like it was Jake's fault they ignored every accommodation in his plan. That night I called a lawyer. Turns out the school had been documenting everything wrong. They wrote that Jake was defiant and disruptive instead of noting that he was having sensory overload. They said he refused to participate instead of admitting they weren't following his plan. The lawyer found emails between teachers talking about Jake. One said dealing with special needs kids was above her pay grade. Another joked about how his meltdowns were probably just spoiled brat tantrums. My kid was suffering and they were making jokes. We sued the school district, not for money, but to force them to actually follow the law. During depositions, Mrs. Peterson admitted she never read Jake's accommodation plan. She said she didn't think he really needed the help because he seemed normal most of the time. The case took 2 years. 2 years of Jake struggling while we fought for his basic rights. We won everything. The district had to pay for private tutoring to catch Jake up. Mrs. Peterson got mandatory training on autism. The school had to completely revamp their special education program, but the damage was done. Jake still flinches when adults raise their voices.